Harry and Meghan have got rid of more staff, with one source claiming they got through employees as quick as normal people get through toilet paper, and milk lasts longer than their staff. What a quote, eh? It's being reported that the couple have cut ties with their communications team. Well, how are they getting anything out then? There we go. And comes just a few weeks after 6 more members of staff have left. Is this a sign that they're having financial problems? Editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, is joining me now for this story. Charlotte, it just seems that these two can't get anything right, particularly when it comes to staff. Staffing's been one of the things we spoke about the most with Harry and Meghan. I think it dates all the way back to when they were still here in the UK and there were rumours they were treating staff terribly. What's the latest on this?
Well, it is true they've got through a lot of staff. I mean, there's one online report that counts 25 since Megxit. But this time is slightly different, because what they've done is about 2 or 3 months ago, they decided to streamline their staffing operation and turn it into a royal household. It's kind of ironic because they've been trying to run away from that royal household structure, but then they realised it actually worked for them, because when Harry was part of a royal household structure, he had great PR. It was tightly managed, it was very rigid, it was very hierarchical, and that's what he's recreated. So he's got this girl called Meredith, who's this sort of overlord, an extremely powerful woman right at the top, and everyone reports up to her. And under her watch, 2 people have indeed been let go. One's called Charlie Gibson and one's called Kyle Boulier. And you asked a really interesting question in your build-up there, because you said, oh, I wonder how this information's getting out there. Well, the fact these 2 people have been let go, there is a little bit of a witch hunt going on behind the scenes in Team Sussex, because some people think, and I have no idea if it's true or not, that maybe one of these disgruntled people, maybe Kyle, is the one leaking this story out.
Right.
But it isn't as many staff have been let go as you think, because actually, really interestingly, a new person has been shipped in. So the number before was 10. They've got 10 people in this household, and they've still got 10 because they did get rid of a couple. But now they've brought in a girl called Emily Robinson, who is the Netflix director of comms. So in other words, they're pulling in the big guns. They're getting Netflix's comms person to try and mastermind their comms, alongside another really brilliant guy called Liam Maguire, who's really close to Harry. And what they're doing is trying to help their image, because they've got stuff to flog, right? They've got rosé and jam. They can't have another 5 years of having a terrible reputation. So they're pulling in the big dogs.
Right, that makes a lot more sense now, Charlotte. I mean, when you hear them saying things like they want to go back to having a royal household, is this maybe a sign that they're trying to make a comeback to Britain, perhaps?
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could be heading back to Britain, and not just for tea with the family. This time, it looks like a coordinated PR push. According to multiple sources, the Sussexes are calling in big-name consultants, global allies, and media strategists. The goal? Reputation rehab and a royal reset. So why are they returning now? It's no secret their public image has taken a serious hit. In the UK, polling shows trust in Harry and Meghan has dropped to an all-time low. Even in the US, where they initially found sympathy, support is fading. Their Netflix series sparked backlash. Spare stirred controversy. And their Spotify deal? Cancelled. Quietly. This return seems less about family ties and more about strategic timing.
I think so. I think it really, really matters to Harry that he's got this terrible reputation back at home, and he doesn't want people at home to hate him, especially because in 2027, he's going to be coming over to Birmingham for the Invictus Games. So the last thing he wants is the entire royal family shunning that event, because he really cares about the Invictus Games. And it is actually, to his credit, a brilliant thing to do. And, you know, nobody wants to be hated back home. And what he's realised is actually, you know, I sort of railed against it at the time, but it worked for me. They protected me. You know, why not give it a go? And one of the sources in his camp told me a few weeks ago, listen, even Harry realises there's nowhere to go but up. So he may as well give the old thing a try again.
Right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they've had a lot of gigs cancelled this year. She just recently did an interview, I think, with, I can't remember the woman's name. I beg your pardon, everybody, but it was deemed as one of the most insufferable interviews on the internet. What is it going to take for them to get a break? Because clearly, whatever's going on their social media, whatever strategy they've got for their interviews, their gigs that they've lined up from Netflix onwards, they're clearly going to have to go through quite a radical PR shift, are they not?
Yeah, and you know what? That's exactly what's going on. When that twerking video came out, which blew my mind and everyone's mind, that was part of their new strategy, because they're trying really hard to remind people that, that they're authentic and that they're just like us, and they kind of do kooky videos in the birthing suite. My personal take on this is that interviews like the one you mentioned, that podcast one, I found that really inauthentic, because I thought that these LA podcasters are so, saccharine and inauthentic themselves. And then that generates more kind of faux Californian speak, and it just kind of perpetuates into this mess. And over here, it just doesn't go down well. We're British. We can see right through nonsense like that. We hate it. But I suppose, and I don't know this, haven't been to LA lately, but I suppose over in LA, it goes down well, because that's their whole vibe. That kind of Californians sucking up to one another on a podcast for an hour and a half. But what Harry needs to do, and what I think he actually is doing by hiring this guy, Liam Maguire, because Liam is a Brit, has been with Harry for years and years and worked on Invictus, and went to Sandhurst Military Academy. He kind of gets that. He's kind of one of the lads. So he gets that cannot work for Harry. Harry being a sort of Californian speak.
When we say pulling in the big dogs, we're talking high-level crisis managers, elite branding experts, and big-budget communications teams. Reports suggest the Sussexes are leaning on political-style image consultants. Think global influence, not just royal etiquette. Names haven't been confirmed, but you can expect connections in Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and major media outlets. This isn't a couple winging it, this is a professional reputation overhaul. But how will the British public react? Let's be honest, this is complicated. Some people feel betrayed. They left the country, aired out family grievances on a global stage, and accused the monarchy of racism. That's not something people forget quickly. For many, a return won't signal healing. It'll feel opportunistic.
Woke kind of advocate. We know him. We know that's not what he's like. He goes to Vegas and gets naked. He's fun. He drinks pints. And that's when the nation loved him back in the day. It was when he was being himself, being authentic.
Quite right, Charlotte. I'd like to bring in the rest of my panel because they'd love to ask you some questions about this. Adam, would you like to ask Charlotte something about Harry and Meghan?
Yeah, look, you say about being authentic. I think it's too late now for the British public to look at Meghan as being authentic. And we all used to love Harry for his cheekiness and his rebellious activities. But now, he's just like a weak man that says how high when Meghan says jump. I don't think we're ever going to reverse that. Do you agree, Charlotte?
I think it can be reversed. I'm ever the optimist. But you're so interesting when you said that thing about weak, because it came out last week that the Queen said, the Queen said Harry is neither strong. Anyway, she basically said Harry was weak. There was some amazingly queenish quote. I've now forgotten it. But anyway, basically, he is weak and Meghan is strong. Oh, and she also said he's not very bright and Meghan's very intelligent. And that's the thing. That's the problem, is that, he is, it does feel to us in the UK like he's being walked all over. Yeah. And his real personality hasn't been allowed to shine through in recent years. Or maybe he has just authentically changed. But the Brits just cannot stomach it. But the other thing is, Meghan sort of doesn't really care about the Brits because she's kind of got an American market for her products. The Americans lap it all up. Apparently the Americans loved that twerking video. Wow. We Brits were just like head in hands, couldn't cope with it. But the Americans love it, and the younger people love it. So maybe the strategy has to be forget about the UK because we're never going to buy what they're selling.
Yeah, some brief comments between yourself, Bill, and Charlotte here.
Yeah, Charlotte, it's interesting what you say. How much of this at core is actually a clash of cultures between what's acceptable communications and messages in the US as opposed to the UK?
Well, I think that's everything, Bill. You're so right, because as Alex said about that podcast, it's clearly acceptable to sit for an hour and a half on a podcast, just buttering each other up. I mean, there's no real content there from when I was where I was sitting, and that is it must be just how the Americans do podcasts and do publicity. It just so isn't how the UK works, and partly because of the tabloid media, which of course they hate. But, the tabloid media is GB News. A lot of us, we're kind of sarcastic. We see right through it. We're kind of humorous and skeptical, frankly. But, that's what makes the British, and it's kind of brilliant. And we know that that's what Harry's like deep down.
Charlotte Griffiths, thank you so much for joining us and talking us through the latest developments over there with Harry and Meghan. Brilliant as ever.
Especially if it's wrapped in press appearances and photo ops. This is the big question. Is this move about reconciliation or relevance? Because while the Sussexes have made headlines, headline buzz doesn't always equal long-term credibility. If they're truly trying to rebuild trust, it's going to take more than a carefully curated visit. It'll take humility, consistency, and probably a bit of silence. If it's just for visibility, people will see through it fast.